Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hey everybody, it's Tom Foster in the World of Marketing, and I've got one of my best buddies again, and I think this might be a three-peat, right?
I think
Was this number two?
this is number two, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm counting on a third.
Oh, for sure. It's like SNL, you know, when you have like Tom Hanks is hosted, like morning, like this is going to be you. So everybody, if you do not know, this is Dave Freeze, the Dave Freeze, calling, and he's calling in Zoom. We're all sheltering, and I'm down in my home studio basement with the guitars in the background, World of Guitars. I like that, Dave.
Yeah, World of Guitars and Marketing.
And Dave is calling from his ancestral home, which is haunted.
It's unquestionably haunted. There's almost no one that's ever stayed overnight that doesn't think it is.
I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear.
And I've been there, and I immediately felt it.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not like poltergeist.
Oh, no. Yeah, not like screaming and running into the street.
No, not that. But you're like, oh,
Uncle
there's
Bill
like-
is here.
there's other people here. Like it feels like you're in a crowd.
Piss off, ghost!
So tell me, let's just start with that, because it's very interesting, your ancestral home. How many generations? Tell me the story.
So Bodie, little Bodie, who you've met virtually, at least, if not in person, is my grandson, my first grandchild, and the seventh generation in a row to live and stay here. So when I was growing up here, I was the fifth generation. And by the way, no one ever moved out. I mean, they would just die and all their stuff would stay here. And so it was packed to the gills with all kinds of crazy stuff. You'd open closets and there would be intact wardrobes from the Victorian era there. There's a painting in the room next door of my grandmother in a carriage in 1878 in front of the same house, which doesn't look any different.
It doesn't. And it's like right there in downtown.
Yeah, downtown Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. I just turned 60. It was the worst birthday like ever. And a buddy of mine called me and goes, I find it hilarious that you're trapped in your ancestral childhood home that you spent every waking minute trying to escape from the time you were 7 years old.
It is kind of irony, isn't it?
It's not. I guess irony could be amusing or terrifying. So this tends on the spectrum to be more to the terrifying end.
Terrifying to you, amusing to us.
Others, yeah, which is fair enough too.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, I appreciate you jumping on this. And
Can I say one other thing, Tom? Just
Please.
about the ancestral home. So in case anybody's wondering, does the tradition of marketing and selling things to other people, products and services, is that something that's new to the family? Well, while we were here going through stuff, we found all kinds of crazy things, including a picture of a fire company, because back in the day when there were still horses and the streets weren't paved, dust was a big problem. So George K. Freeze bought a big watering truck for the fire company, in return for which he plastered ads for his company all over it. And it would just circulate through town all the time, watering the streets and taking care of a big problem that people faced, which was dust. And then we also found, by the same guy, a quote, open letter to the editor that was headlined, "Is George K. Freeze a profiteer?" And the letter was brilliant because he's clearly just written it, so he doesn't even pay anything for the space in the newspaper. And he goes, a lot of people have accused me of being a profiteer. Maybe I am, if by profiteer you mean somebody who sells high quality goods to people that really want them at a fair price.
That's brilliant.
And then he says, by the way, hey, Christmas is coming. So when you're downtown, come on in and we'll take care of your stuff. You leave it and you go do your shopping elsewhere, you come back and pick it up, because that's what we're all about, helping you out.
And that just aggravated everybody
Oh, it was fantastic.
because of good marketing. Always good marketing aggravates people.
Well, it aggravates somebody, which is good. We'll definitely talk about that today.
You've done something right.
Yeah. If you've agitated the people that weren't going to buy from you anyway, then you've done something right, probably.
So here we are in this pandemic.
Mm.
And what is this? Feels like Groundhog Day. What is this, the 4th or 5th week?
What year is it?
It's hard to remember because we converted over a week ahead to virtual. So I think we're like 6 weeks in.
And I talked to Sam Nath Sikdar, our
And master.
the master Sam, yesterday, and he told me that things are grim in Pennsylvania. They've shut down all the ABC stores, and you can now buy liquor, and you can get wine delivered, but like I can't even imagine that. I don't think they've done that down here in Virginia yet, but
No, Pennsylvania. I can't quite figure that one out. I get it. I rarely post anything that could even be construed as political in social media. That's just not where I do that sort of thinking. But I did post something the other day because some of these governors are so deranged and so overreaching and doing things that aren't related to the safety of their populations, that seem to be related to some other weird fantasies that they've got going on. And so I said, hey, we need to be wary of this, and we need to watch them, because you should be safe and you should do everything to protect society. Right. That's reasonable. But when government takes over all these things, they don't give control back very easily. And wow, did people go berserk? Oh, you want to kill my grandmom. And so they missed the part about where I did say, like, let's not kill any grandmoms. Let's try to say. But it is a concern of mine.
That for the point that you were making. I mean, like, you're right. Like once they get power, they're not like, oh, let me just give all this back to you now.
And they're obviously seizing more power than they probably need to. In other words, if there's a restriction in place that isn't clearly helping to prevent the spread, then somebody ought to really be able to justify it, or at least have a conversation about it. In fact, as we speak, Tom, for the first time, protests are breaking out all over the states. I predicted to Robin about a week ago that the mood of the country would change because everybody was very careful to try to be nice to one another. And, I was reaching out to people and just offering to do whatever I could do. And most people are being that way. But the oppressiveness of this is weighing on people now.
What's going on in Michigan, and like, who knows what it's going to be.
It's about to happen in Virginia too, I think.
What's that?
Big protests about to happen in Virginia too.
Oh, really? I don't.
He's a piece of work.
I'm sheltering here.
Yeah.
In my basement studio, as you see. This is not a virtual background. This is the real deal.
I know, that's fantastic.
And so, and you're not even a drinking man. You don't even drink, so it's no big deal. But poor Sam, he's like, send whiskey. He's like, I'm out of whiskey.
Oh, that's not good.
No, he's in there he's sheltering with his in-laws.
Yeah. Yeah. He has a new baby. So he has a 6-year-old, a new baby, Angela, and both of his in-laws.
Oh, man.
Now, I'm probably going to talk out of school, but Sam told me that his in-laws crack him up because he doesn't eat beef for religious reasons, and his wife is or pork, and his wife is deathly allergic to seafood. So of course, they chose to make a bacon wrapped scallop for dinner the other night. So he's like, okay.
Oh man, I'm gonna interview him on a podcast next week. So,
well, for your listeners, that will be a good one to listen to, because yes. I have had the privilege of working with Sam, because he's in a business that unlike many people that will listen to this, he is shut down, clamped down tight. He owns gyms.
Yep, he owns 3 gyms.
Gyms. Yep.
But I
So,
think that I talked to him about some cool stuff that
Yep.
I'm sure that he'll talk to you about
same here.
how to
Yep.
pivot.
Yep.
And
And so
that's
he has a super good mindset, and he's
Yep.
reaching out to his network, people like you and me, and testing things. I helped him with a bunch of copy the other day, and he's doing it. Like, he didn't just call me up and say, "Hey, what would you do?" He had a plan and called up and said, "Is there any way we can make this better?" Ew. Would you write everything for me? No.
who does that?
He
Who
didn't
does
do
that?
No. And at no time while I was helping him did he shout at me,
Right, monkey, right.
"Right, you monkey, right," which is
Who does that?
somebody has actually shouted that at me.
Right.
Mhm.
Jerk.
What a scumbag.
All right. Well,
We
yeah,
should probably explain that I have a gift for writing copy.
you do. You
Just
have.
so people
That's
don't
just one of your many gifts.
It's true. I'm gifted and likable. I just didn't want people to think you were like forcing me to write a novel or something. I was writing business copy and emails. And,
Right. Yeah. And it was really just more like trying to keep you to your own self-imposed deadlines.
yeah, rather
It
than
was distracting you,
Yeah, I'm easily.
making faces and
I'm
playing
likable.
guitar for you.
Mm.
Yeah.
and
Anyway.
easily distracted.
All right. So
Let's
let's
get
do
to
a pivot right now
Yeah.
away from whatever we were just doing. And here we are in the middle of this crazy pandemic, where there's a lot of businesses that are, like we just talked about with Sam, shut down. A lot of the restaurants, bars, haircut places. I haven't had a haircut. It looks like did you cut your own hair?
Yeah, I have a haircut, but it's
Yeah.
pretty unkept.
Looks great. I'm
I can
trying
type.
to grow out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Like everything is shut down. The world has kind of gone crazy. There's a couple of good things that have happened.
Mhm.
Like the pollution level is
Plummeted.
down,
Mhm.
extraordinary, and it looks like we've reversed global warming and we're going the other direction.
Just at least based on the last few days, that's true.
Yeah, and seismic activity and actually people are, or at least in the neighborhoods before the riots began, are getting along and being friendly to each other.
They are.
I actually, I don't know about you, but I actually get to see my wife a lot more than I used to because she's not slaving away at the school and running out the door crack of dawn with the kids. And
Mine actually is a healthcare worker, so she's at the hospital,
really,
and we occasionally get these calls from some institution called Infectious Disease Control, telling her that she's been exposed. So that's fun. Yeah, that's fun. But Robin is very healthy, and so far has either defeated the bug, or they're all gowned and masked and things like that. So
she's got proper equipment.
She does now. Yeah, she does now. But that does make for an interesting day-to-day existence.
Yeah.
Like Robin, well, frequently she goes, "What are we going to have for dinner?" Because she works at the hospital till late, so I make it. And I go, "Well, assuming that I survive until then, we'll do this."
Yeah.
So.
Well, it is definitely nuts, no joke. But we got to keep going.
Yeah.
And, you and I are marketers, and you are an attorney by trade and admission, and a very successful one, a partner in a large law firm.
That I helped to found and build. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And do estate planning, probate, wills and trusts, right?
Yep, elder law and some intergenerational kind of asset protection, kind of protecting kids from losing the inheritance in a divorce or lawsuit or business liability, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm.
So how has this affected your practice?
So the governor's order is ambiguous on us, but it does appear because we help people to file death tax returns, and the government hasn't given anybody any relief on those. It does appear that we meet the essential services exception. Governor Wolf's got a pretty strict order, like a lot of states. And so we can be open, but we observe very, clear protocols about who could be in the building. We can't admit the public, but we can have a lawyer and a person there each day, as long as they're on different floors and social distancing, and we wipe everything down. And so we are operating virtually, which has, to your point, advantages and disadvantages. And I think that one of the things that people are going to find is that we're going to discover things that clients and customers and patients like, and that we like, and that work for us, and they won't go away. So I don't think it's going to be a question of, does everybody come into the office again? It's going to be a question of, do you want to come into the office, or do you want your planning call to be a Zoom call or some other video platform? So there's things happening now that even if businesses or practices don't have to completely pivot, if they're paying attention, they're going to find things that are better from the client's perspective and possibly from their own. I mean, right now there are inefficiencies in the way we're doing things. And we can't, in Pennsylvania, we don't have e-notary. We might as of 24 hours ago, it's unclear, but we can't, we could do the planning, we could prepare the documents, we could prepare the trust, but it's not really easy to sign them. And lawyers are saying, oh, you just have people come into your parking lot. Well, maybe not under the order. So just there's a lot of complexity of getting things to the finish line for people. So we're not completely shut down, and I still have my full staff on. I haven't had to let anybody go, and we applied for PPP, and we were just approved for PPP, which for anybody listening, yeah. Did you apply, and did you get approval?
Buster's been working on that, and he just told me this morning that we're not sure if we made this round, or
Yeah.
might have run out of money, or.
But I think that, again, to this point, that's a resource that's there. But if you don't get it, you don't give up and say, oh, I didn't get it. You have to, you're like, we had plan B, because it wasn't clear who was going to get it and who wasn't going to get it. So.
And they're supposedly, trying to dig up some more funds for that. But yeah, I mean, like, you're right. I mean, like, you just got to keep finding. I mean, we are actually going for 2 different sources for that, 2 different bank sources. One, I think, was the Fountainhead one that Perry Marshall was recommending. And then the other one is the SunTrust. And this is all coming from Buster. Buster's handling all that.
But by the way, you've heard me talk about Red Queen hypothesis before. This is going to be super useful, I think. For people that haven't, the Red Queen hypothesis is named after the character of the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. And in the book, Alice is walking, and the Queen says, oh, that's not going to get you anywhere. Here, in this world, you don't get anywhere just by walking. If you're standing still or just walking, you're falling behind. You have to run much faster to get anywhere. So in biology, biologists noticed that in a changing environment, like a swamp that's starting to dry up, some plants will adapt and thrive, or other types of plants will come into that ecosystem and will survive, so that the plants that are paying attention to and or more adaptive to what's happening will survive, and the ones that, all the life forms in that ecosystem that are just standing still will perish. And that's true in business too. Just generally in the world, there are lots of incremental changes going on in how people communicate and where they get their information and what they want out of law firms or whoever else might be listening in. And so firms and people and businesses that are paying attention to those changes and have kind of self-awareness, can adapt to them, will get more market share. And those that are just standing still thinking, I cracked the code. So if you've ever said to yourself like, oh, I've cracked the code, I've got this now, I'm on cruise control, any expressions like that, you're doomed. That's what's dooming you, because somebody else that doesn't think that they've cracked the code is going to adapt to the changed environment. So what's happened here is, going into this pandemonium debacle, we had the oncoming onslaught of AI, the Internet of Things. full utilization or fuller utilization of the web and its capabilities in business. So rapid changes were taking place, which meant staying in place was falling further and further behind faster. And this thing has just put that on meth and steroids at the same time, because the changes are happening so quickly now, and they're so profound that you really have to keep this Red Queen hypothesis in mind, and you really have to pay attention, and you really can't say to yourself like, oh, I got my PPP loan, I'm good. Well, how long is that going to last you?
Right.
A month? Yeah, I mean, stop it. You've got to be thinking further. And here's the other thing, Tom, is a lot of people are like, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to do this as my business now. They're totally untested. They don't know whether the marketplace wants it. They don't know whether the marketplace will want it when we return to some new kind of normal. And we could talk about what that looks like 6 weeks or 6 months from now, whatever it might be. Anybody that thinks this is like, I pivot and I'm good, is also dooming themselves. This is about placing lots of small bets and watching what people want and need at various times, given the circumstances, and putting ideas out there to see if they work and they're seized upon. Because if you just say, okay, I'm changing from making A to making B, and B doesn't pan out, or even if it does just for the next 6 weeks or 6 months, and then B isn't desirable anymore, and you were stuck and put all your eggs in the building B basket, you're in trouble. So I like to talk to people about 3 big picture concepts: the Red Queen hypothesis, this idea of making small bets, and some mindset stuff we could talk about, especially from Admiral Stockdale and the Vietnam War when he was imprisoned in a prisoner of war camp, because there are real parallels to how we should be thinking to what Stockdale and his men were going through in captivity.
We'll talk about that now that you've set it up.
So Stockdale was being interviewed by Jim Collins, who I think you're a fan of. I think you're a Jim Collins fan. And Jim Collins said to Stockdale, who was one of the highest ranking officers in prison, and also imprisoned for one of the longest periods of time, as I recall. He asked Stockdale, when he was in the POW camps, could they tell who was going to make it and who was going to survive and who wasn't? And Stockdale said, oh yeah, we could actually. We had a pretty good handle on that. We tried to help. And Collins thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to ask him who survived, and it'll be the optimists, which is what the answer that Jim Collins wanted. And he said, oh, was it the optimists? And Stockdale said, nah, the optimists, they always thought like, I'll be out by Thanksgiving, I'll be out by Christmas, I'll be out by Easter. And then their will broke, by Easter when they weren't out again. He said, it was people who were mildly optimistic, but realists. They said, like, I'm a prisoner of war. I have to figure out how to live in a prisoner of war camp. And it'll be great if the war ends or somebody rescues me, but I'm a prisoner of war. And it's cultivating that. It's hard to do, but it is possible. And we could even give people some proven techniques for doing it. It's building that powerful mindset of, this is where I am. Let me realistically assess it. Let me watch what's going on so I can react to it or anticipate it. But let me stay confident and strong and optimistic in the face of that. And there's a number of sources of tools that we could get, ranging from SEER, which is search, evade, resist, escape training, to some of what Stockdale went on to say, to some kind of woo-woo stuff that you and I like, which is focusing on how we cultivate gratitude within ourselves, because it's very interesting. When you express gratitude for all the things that are still good in your life, no matter how bad it gets, there are still good things. When you make that a habit, you get really in touch with the resources around you, the people that you have around you, the people that care, whatever financial resources you still have, the good run that you had that put you in a position to survive this, your education that made you flexible. There are all these things that when we express gratitude on a regular basis, come as a result of that support a iterative, creative, confident mindset that is where you want to be. You don't want to be, it's so bad, it's so bad. Write me some copy. You don't want to be you don't want to be that weak-minded fool. You want to be in that position of both acknowledging the position you're in and building the confident, grateful mindset that comes up with solutions to that.
That's really good. And, thanks for talking about that. As I said, I go into these things, I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about. And that's what you said. Let's just riff. And I think that's, but it's funny that you brought that up because it's so true. It's so true that like your mindset about things is so important, and you don't want to be rigid in your thinking either way.
No, I mean, you want that flexibility. That's another piece of mindset, that flexible, creative people are going to thrive in this as long as they can also do.
Yeah.
You don't want to just think about it. You want to be iterative. You want to come up with new ideas, but then you want to be able to do them and test them and place those small bets that we were talking about.
Yeah. And like, there's nobody saying like, this is not a shit show that's going on, and it's not a terrible, tragic time in humanity's existence, for sure.
It is.
And, like talking about what you were saying, I mean, I feel terrible about nobody close to me, thank goodness. But I mean, I feel terrible for people. I know I have some client friends who have some people that are close to them that are sick, and I'm thinking about them and of course empathetic to that.
Sure.
Of course.
And like I said, Robin is going to work and heroically exposing herself to whatever.
Now, and I didn't even think about that. Now I'm going to be thinking about that. So thanks.
Well, but you know what, Robin and I talked about that. We were like, what if everybody that was involved in healthcare just said like, oh, I'm afraid?
Well, I think like I was just watching that about some nursing home, like where like 25 of the workers there just said, I'm not coming.
And so that would be even more catastrophic to society.
Right.
So, I mean, a friend of Robin's from college is an OBGYN doc. And so she's delivering babies in this situation. And she goes every day, and she and her husband are friends of Robin and mine. And we were talking to them, and they said, it's pretty much inevitable. We just think we're going to get this. And some people survive it and some people don't.
And that's how I think, like Charlotte,
sure.
Like we'll probably get it. I mean, like so be it. I mean, it's not like I'm wishing it. It's
and a certain number of people it kills. But, this fascinates me how our society has reacted to this, because there are people who say, oh, Dave, you seem hardened about this. And I mean, I have friends who are very sick, and I have clients that are very sick, and I'm not hardened to it. It's just that when we get in our cars and drive, like those people that say things like that to me, I say, okay, well then I would like you to turn in your driver's license.
You're more of a realist. You're a realist.
Yeah, because they get in the car and drive. The cars kill lots and lots of hundreds of thousands of people in this country. So,
and just, going back to the whole being an optimist, when you're right. If you're like, oh, if you set a date like Easter,
right.
And everything's
just hypothetically,
all going to be fixed. And then that time comes and goes, and it's not, and you've got your head so focused on that, you just make things so much worse. But
yeah, you want to have the mindset. I mean, I'm not sure. We were both laughing at the Easter thing, but also it's helpful to society. I mean, nobody likes to think that there might have been something good or right about what he said, but it is helpful for society to have in the short term these things that they can look forward to. Yeah. And so I actually thought that was okay, even though everybody sort of knew that was going to be too early. But to your point,
he's got a tough job. I mean, like, whether you love him or hate him, doesn't matter. That guy's got a tough job. You cannot win in that job now, no matter what.
Same with the governors, because when they open aspects of the economy up, no matter how staggered it is, there are going to be some more people that
Yeah.
get this, and some more that die, right?
I'd be like, see, you shouldn't have done it.
Exactly, but you can't. There's a flip side to this, which is that this can't go on forever,
But
or
you
people will
can't,
die.
I mean, like, that's the thing. It's like, okay, like just talking about positive things, like we were saying, I mean, like the pollution is down. I mean, and stress levels have just gone way down. I mean, like you're not everybody's getting in the car at, at 8:50 in the morning and sitting in traffic and like getting all frustrated. That is completely gone. I mean, that whole anxiety is gone, and that's a really nice thing. I mean, like, you and I think that we have a pretty flexible schedule in terms of like, I work virtually, I work from home quite a bit. So this for me is not a big change. I know that you work out of multiple offices and you pretty much set up your own schedule, or pretty much, or else people.
Yeah, this is a change in that there's more time spent sitting here.
Right. In the haunted house, which is not something that but hey, it's okay. It's not bad.
No,
But,
well, I am going solo turkey hunting too, so I could social distance out in the field. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty cool. That's not something that you would normally do, probably, right?
I love turkey hunting, love it, but haven't done it in a really long time. So we'll see if
I didn't even know you did that, so that's a whole new thing to me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the good stuff. And the fact is that humanity has done this to themselves. We've done this to ourselves by just the growth. And we are expanding into places that we've never expanded into, and encountering animals and beasts that we have not encountered before. And
setting up level 4 viral biolabs where we probably shouldn't, like right near giant industrial, heavily populated areas, in case a bug escapes. I'm not saying it did or it didn't.
Yeah, all kinds of things could happen. But the point is that as we do that stuff, which we're not going to stop doing, nobody's going to stop doing that stuff. We're not going to like get through this and say, well, you know what? We were bad. We should probably stop behaving that way. That's not going to happen. But I think that the thing that should happen is we should be better prepared medically to deal with this crap when we do it to ourselves. That, I think, is the thing that we goofed up on.
Yeah, that revealed what I think is actually a very long-standing problem in society. If I could speak to that, in a bigger picture, this whole supply line thing is a real problem because most people won't remember this, but in the 80s, we were just starting to get the technology and build out something called just-in-time inventory. Because before that, big companies had, their production facilities and warehouses where they stored stuff to ship, and then there were warehouses regionally in the countries where they stored stuff that could ship. And so if something happened, there was stuff that could be pumped into the supply line. But as we got better at technology and bringing stuff in from different countries where we get these ridiculous margins by dealing with China and taking advantage of slave labor, by the way, as we did that, there was less and less storage in the warehouses. Stuff was arriving just as AI was anticipating that it would be needed to be shipped out. And Amazon was working furiously on this to anticipate from what we were buying what our next purchase would be. And that all sounds really good and efficient and builds big margins, but it makes the whole system very precarious.
And very fragile.
And very fragile because everything is just where it needs to be in perfect timing, assuming regular demand and regular ability to handle it and things.
And keeping it, the profits high, margins high. That's kind of the problem, is that it's very focused on that.
Yeah, so for us, people may be wondering like, oh, fine, Tom and Dave, how does that affect me? Well, I'll give you a micro example of it. I had a piece of equipment fail, And so now we're bringing in people on an emergency basis and replacing expensive hardware. So while they were at it, I really needed to spend more money right now. Like I needed a hole in the head. But it dawned on me that everybody's now working from home. What if a home piece of equipment fails? Now that's a giant loss. So I bought and had the consultant spec out some laptops so that we could deal with that if somebody had a piece of equipment that they're using from home go down. So I built some redundancy in. So rather than have a lack of redundancy and everything just exactly where it needed to be for, razor, like maximizing profits, but razor thin and fragile system in all other ways, I said, like, let's learn the lesson from that. Let's not be the hospital that doesn't have any masks, and let's not be the warehouse that when they come to order them, we can't fulfill that order. So now, have I anticipated everything? I'm sure I haven't, but I've anticipated a reasonably foreseeable problem that could have cost me tens of thousands of dollars or more, and solved that problem for, $900, whatever it was per laptop, spec'd out with the software and everything. So we need to be thinking that way. Another point I wanted to make is, to your point, people say to me, "Oh, this is dead. It's never going back to normal." And of course, they're right in some ways. But when the Titanic sank, if you read newspapers and magazines for months after the Titanic sinking, nobody was ever going to go on a cruise ship recreationally again. And yet, when coronavirus hit the cruise industry, there were more people on cruise ships than ever before in the history of the world. 9/11, nobody's ever getting on a plane again recreationally. It'll just be for the business and military. Yeah, right before the coronavirus, the airline was having its biggest year ever in the history of domestic recreational flying, business and recreational flying. So we have as humans a short memory, and we have built into a certain profound human motivators. So we are going to find ways to get back together again. Hopefully they'll be safe and timed in such a way that they don't cause a problem to society. But nothing will be the same, but lots of things will go back in ways that we didn't anticipate it, and it'll look a lot like what they were before. So be aware of both of those things. They seem contradictory, but they're not. Humans need to behave in a certain way, and they forgive and forget. And not my mom. My mom wasn't a big forgive and forget gal, but generally speaking, humans do. And she's probably looking down like all mad now that I said that.
You're going to start hearing some thumping from upstairs.
But so there are universal human motivators that this isn't going to end. And so the behaviors that come from them are going to come back again. But there are new things that we talked about, and new fears that people have, and new concerns. And if we are aware of both of those things, if we could do the amazing task of holding two apparently competing thoughts in our mind at the same time, we come up with better solutions. We go, okay, we know people are going to want to get together, and we know this is going to be their concern. We know they're going to want to travel again, but we know this is going to be their concern. That's what creates really powerful solutions to these kinds of problems, and will position some people and companies to come out of this. And by the way, there's a very good argument from a number of economists. This won't necessarily come true because economists and behavioral economists are often wrong, but there's a good argument that this is a very severe and deep recession, but it's more shaped like this. Whereas meaning like a steep V, where we go down to this brutal bottom and then we come back. And I'm not just talking about the stock market, I'm talking about the economy more generally. Whereas in 2008, it was kind of a slow burn. All this stuff started in 2007, it began cascading into 2008, it kept going through 2009. You could start to see the return of many aspects of the economy in this year, because
I believe that.
Yeah, it's possible, because the cutoff.
The other stuff was more sneaky. It was more like, what? It was slow. This was like the light switch was turned off.
Right.
And
so far, it hasn't destroyed the infrastructure. There's a point at which it being shut down could destroy the ability to come back quickly. But so far, that probably it's happened, but it's not to the point where we can't.
And I think that if if businesses help other businesses, if we all, kind of instead of being like, well, this is mine and that's yours, so sorry, but we help each other out, like I'm trying to do, like you're trying to do. I was talking to Adam Rawson, who from the mastermind, from Ben Glass's mastermind group. Smart guy, smart kid. And he's a criminal lawyer down in Florida, and nobody's driving around, getting pulled over. And so his business completely. And I spoke to him, and I just did a podcast earlier this week with him. And I had spoken to him a week ago, and he was kind of down in the dumps about it all, but we talked about that and about, well, think about all the people, and you got them too, on your list that their business just is shut down. I mean, they got nothing. I mean, the restaurants, like we were talking about earlier, the bars, restaurant, haircut places, nail salons, any kind of service business that you no more. And sure, this PPP thing, maybe that will help them if you can get the money. But people are going to need their lawyers more than ever when this is done. So lawyers need to see this through, because people are going to need their lawyers. Business interruption insurance, you're going to have to go fight I know that's not what you do.
No, but all these things, sure.
But the insurance companies are already gearing up for a fight. They're already denying, they're already doing all that stuff right now. And it's clear in the insurance policies that these people have paid for pandemic insurance. And, they're arguing that, well, there's no physical damage or BS like that. But, come on now, this is ridiculous. And the insurance companies need to step up and help out. They got more money than anybody. They got all the money, and they need to come back and help out. So there is relief. There is relief. And so one of the things that Adam, just to get back to Adam, one of the things that he's doing is I think he did a podcast or an interview of one of his friends that owns a seafood restaurant, and was talking about his the stone crab claws and how they will deliver them, and just kind of a small pivot of, instead of, so think about this. Before, you could not get alcohol delivered to your house with your food. You had to go to the restaurant. Now, bring it.
Yep.
That's a pivot. Why did you?
And people are going to ask their governments, well, why was that okay then and it's not okay now?
Right. I mean,
they're going to want that.
Yeah, it's silly. And by the way, that will also cut down on DUIs and all driving, and cut down on pollution. I think there's going to be a lot of good things coming out of this. One of the things I talked to Sam about yesterday, I'm like, there's no reason why you cannot do virtual training. We're all sitting around. We love it. I said, I'll be the first one to sign up. I've been doing personal training with my personal trainer, and it's been fantastic. I mean, he can yell at me through the iPad just as well as he can right next to me. He's on my nutrition. He's helping me out. I'm paying him just like I would. It's no different. It's no different. And the other things that he can do, for instance, people want their gear. We cannot go to retail. We cannot go to the mall. We cannot go to, the Foot Locker and buy our shoes. But there's no reason why Sam can't recommend, here are the shoes that I think that you should be using. Let me sell them with your kit. People just need to be thinking differently than the same old way. And that's because one way or another, I think we'll agree that we've got to get the economy going. The economy that is critical. That has to get going. That is ultimately what gets medical equipment in people's hands. Money has to start flowing again. And if that doesn't happen, people are going to go nuts if we don't start getting the money flowing again. I'm not saying let's all go out and go back to work and be unsafe, but we have to be smart about it.
Right. And to your points that you're just making, I'll give people a little framework to use. You should not, just like you're saying, don't stop doing business find ways to do it in this environment. Find out what the new environment is requiring people to have, or what.
And the Red Queen thing, but don't like put everything into one bat. Like,
right. But also then we've got to market the pivot, and we've got
Yes.
to market the small bets, right? So, and you've got to create brand awareness. So a lot of law firms have pulled back. So A, that made it cheaper for me to advertise. B,
Yeah.
I'm not advertising and marketing the same way. So here's a way of looking at it, which is marketing. Think of marketing now as identifying all the places, and they're not the same, where your prospects first see you, become aware of you, engage with you, where your customers meet you and see you. So is it in Zoom calls? It's not the parking lot where they're coming in anymore. It's not, but one of the things that dawned on us the other day is nobody gets their chocolate and doesn't get to see their fresh flowers and things. So can we recreate that when we do things by sending them out to them in the mail and say, hey, you didn't get your chocolate when you were in, so here's some just to say thanks.
And people will remember that. I mean,
Yeah, so the way to do it is to identify every point of contact with the prospect, the client, the customer, the patient.
That's good chocolate, by the way. That
is good chocolate.
you guys do is good chocolate.
It's really good.
I
Yeah,
hope I'm on the chocolate list.
I will get you on there. So you identify every point of contact, because every point of contact is either a place where you could disappoint the prospect, or you could delight the prospect, the client, the customer, the patient. You can exceed their expectations or fail to meet their expectations. And so the stuff looks different now. So yeah, we still have some automated emails going out. It's a point of contact, but they can't be saying the things they were saying before that made perfectly good sense and wouldn't have offended anybody. Now it does look like you're George K. Freese being accused of profiteering if you're saying some of the same things that were innocent enough that are built into these automated, and I haven't gone through them all yet because we've been in managing the crises for our clients mode right now. But if we start to take the time, or if you are closed down and you really can take the time to think out the pivot, be identifying I help people to do this all the time. We whiteboard this out. What is every place that they see us, from the very first point of awareness through when we're now trying to trigger them to make referral and to come back and see us and all those kind of things. And if we think about marketing that way, there's some amazing deals out there. By the way, are people going to new places now for information that they trust? Yes. And so maybe we have to appear in new places. Maybe our retargeting ads look a little bit different.
Yep.
Maybe instead of saying, come and see us, they just need to be tweaked to say, do you need help? Do you need information? Do you want this report on how to deal with it? We created a private client Facebook group that I invited you to, which is another new way now to disseminate to the local clients.
You see my comment?
I did see your comment. Yeah. There's been some very funny comments in there. So, and it's a place where people can kind of get to know one another. Obviously, we don't dump every client in there, but we invite them, and they know that they're going to see our other clients. So if anybody is out there listening, going like, oh, you have a duty of client confidentiality, don't worry. They get it. It's a public Facebook. Well, it's a private Facebook group, but they'll see one another.
But the point is that you're communicating with your clients. And by the way, like, to you, that's elementary.
Yes, but I'm not seeing a lot of it.
But not to most lawyers. And this actually, I'm in the middle of, as you know, I don't know. Well, maybe you don't know, but I'm in the middle of, I'm at the tail end of redoing my 5 Biggest Mistakes book. That I wrote 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm redoing it. Now it's 7 mistakes. I've added 2 more mistakes to it.
We're the same.
And I'm the monkey right now. And I've got my own whip on myself. I was up at 4 o'clock this morning writing it. Because I'm busy doing these all day long. But the number one mistake now, the number one mistake used to be overspending pay-per-click. That's moved down to mistake 3. The number one mistake now is ignoring your list. Ignoring your list is like ignoring your family. And so we all know how that goes. And so, but I cannot believe it that all businesses are still not paying attention to their clients. It is so much, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. And I've had all these calls where I've reached out and said to lawyers and other business people that are in that business black ops community that I've created, hey, come on in. You don't have to pay for this. Let's all get together and let's brainstorm this, and I'll deliver to you a couple strategies and a couple tactics. So one of the things I'm telling people is to leverage, because I have a lot of people on the list. I have the paralegals calling people and saying, specifically, this is not about business. I'm happy to take your questions if you have any, but I'm just calling to check and see.
Yeah, how are you?
How you are. And Doug and I are doing it. We're reaching out. We're all calling. And we're prefacing it by saying, this isn't about business. And people are so appreciative of that. And when I say it to everybody, they go, oh, yeah, we're doing that. We're doing that. But you know they're not.
No.
You know they're not doing it. People tell me I'm doing this stuff all the time. And then when I get there to do a consulting or I ask them to send me, you could just tell they're not doing it. Or if they are doing it, they're calling to say, hey, we can't sign your will this week because our notaries are closed down. They're not saying, they're not positioning this as genuine concern for them at a human level rather than business. So it's the kind of advertising that looks like, here, let me sell you something while the world's in turmoil by scaring you, versus how can I help you type of advertising. You know,
when you reach out to them with that, like, how can I help you?
Yep.
Whatever it is, then you're reconnecting the relationship. You're re-cementing that. And yeah, I mean, like, you're not, and you got to get off the mindset that you're going to, like, every conversation, every touch is a sale. And if you don't get a sale,
right,
then it's a fail. That's just wrong. And if you think that way, you are just wrong. You know, it's going to take 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times before you get a sale. But just having the conversation with somebody is a sale, because you're reconnecting, and the sale is reconnecting that relationship
at a level that is bigger than merely the core business relationship. Yeah. You've reached out to them and established a personal connection again, rather than just a business connection again.
Well, you've always done a great job at that. That was, like, we talked about the chocolate place, because when I've come up there, when I visited up there, you took me by the chocolate place and bought me delicious. That's a local chocolate shop, right?
Yeah.
That is owned by this chocolatier or chocolatier. How do you say that?
Chocolatier, I guess. I don't know.
Yes. So it's not some big giant company. It's a local in Phoenixville that you have your chocolates made, and beautiful.
They brand them for us.
Right. And then send them out to your clients with a wonderful presentation. Right.
And we bought coffee. So there's a new local coffee roaster. So we go to the coffee roaster, and my brother and I like super dark roast coffee. So the coffee roaster makes us the freeze blend, which is very popular, by the way, because
I want some of the freeze blend. I like that dark roasted coffee.
I'll shoot that down to you. So we I went into I think I told you this story, but your listeners might enjoy it. I go into a restaurant where I'm going to meet my brother and the mayor, of course, before social distancing. And the waitress, who knows me, says, "What are you doing here?" Because I usually come in at lunch rather than at breakfast. And I say, "Oh, I'm meeting my brother and the mayor." So she goes, "Who's your brother?" So I said, "It's Rob Freeze." I mean, this woman has known both of us forever and somehow did not connect us, even though we look and sound shockingly similar to one another.
Yes.
So she, upon hearing that Rob is coming in, she goes, "Oh my God, I better get the coffee going." And she runs back into the kitchen, and I think she's going to just make coffee because Rob and I are big coffee drinkers. Oh no, she's got the freeze dark roast blend there, and she makes a special pot when Rob comes in. And so anyway, one thing leads to another, and I decide, well, I'm going to really support the roaster, so I buy, 50-pound bags of Freeze Brothers roast. And I started sending it to clients. What I didn't think out, well, it was whole beans. And so I was sending it to clients that are coffee people. So I just assumed they'd have a grinder, like, it was a wrong assumption, right? So the first person responds and says like, what are you doing sending me beans? Like you're giving me a job. I have to grind them. I don't have a grinder. You know, he's carrying on and moaning. And so I actually sent him a grinder, but begrudgingly, because he saved me from my erroneous assumption, even though he was an ass. But then I reached back out to everybody else I had sent them to. And I was like, hey, it came to my attention that I sent you whole beans because I knew you liked coffee, but I now realize not everybody might have a grinder. So about half the people wrote back and said, no, this is fantastic coffee. I have a grinder. About half wrote back and said, no, but I borrowed a grinder or whatever. So probably 10 or 15 people I sent grinders to.
I have 2 grinders, so you can send me.
You're a coffee
I'll
person.
share my grinder with some other people.
But I mean, think about how many things went on in that little store. Yeah. We talked about the local chocolatier. It caused me to want to support this new guy that's got the roast. The roast is now in these restaurants and they make it for us when we come in. It made me want to buy more from him. I sent it out to clients thinking I knew that they were coffee people, but there was an erroneous assumption there. Even the guy was an ass. He pointed that out to me, so I gave him a grinder, but it triggered me to go, well, these people that don't have grinders should have grinders. Anybody that I sent that coffee to or those grinders to, they love that whole story. I've shared the entire story with all of them, and they just love it. Nobody's forgetting that. That built a really genuine human connection.
How is your brother Rob doing?
He asks about your wife, Charlotte, with some frequency, which I don't think is healthy. And when he does it, he gets like a faraway look in his eye and he goes, how's Tom? And he says it like that. And then he gets a little twinkle in his eye and he goes, and how's Charlotte?
Yeah.
So there's 2 totally different tones of voice when he asks.
That happens a lot, actually.
He is well. He's fighting the good fight. He has his son and daughter-in-law have moved back with him. They left Manhattan where they worked for American Express and JP Morgan. So they're working virtually from good old Chester County, Pennsylvania. And
I was just thinking that I think that would be a great podcast is to have both of you.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
So
we'll tell childhood business stories because we were entrepreneurs from the time we were 6 years old.
Let's do that. Can we arrange that?
We not only can, we should. And he hosts a television show that is
where he walks around Phoenixville and
my God, it's one of the most strange pieces of work to ever see. And there's constantly explosions going off in it, and he introduces businesses to people that have moved into the town or that are followers of the town, and it is hilarious. He did one of a spa with the mayor that I will recommend to anybody that they watch. It's wrong.
That's on YouTube, right?
It is. Yeah, I'll give you a link. I don't know if you have show notes for these or not, but
yeah, what is the link? Tell us.
I'll have to.
All right, send it to me. I'll get Cole to pop it in here. Cole will edit this. Now, I got a couple more minutes, but
we've gone
real quick. You brought it up, Business Black Ops. Now, Business Black Ops is your group.
Yeah.
That I'm in and Sam's in and a bunch of other business people.
Anybody that's got any common sense and testosterone or the right estrogen testosterone ratios.
It's like marketing it's like master's degree marketing. It's like beyond that.
And it's sort of like big picture mindset stuff.
It's great.
And marketing. Yeah, I love that group.
So how does somebody get more information about getting involved?
And by the way, when I said appropriate estrogen testosterone ratio, there are a lot of very, very, very smart women in that group that kick the butts of these men. We do everything from lock picking and escaping from ties and being taped up and shooting guns. Yep. So if anybody is interested in that, Tom, they can just call Lisa. I'll give you a phone number, but they should mention Foster Web Marketing because we'll do something very special for them. We'll give them a month's free the Business Black Ops intelligence briefing, which you can testify, I think, is a good piece of
fantastic work. I steal stuff from it all the time.
And we'll throw them into the coaching call. There's a monthly group coaching call too that's killer good. So the number is 610-933-8069. Just ask for Lisa. If she's not there, just give your name, address, contact information to whoever answers, and tell them you want to be added to the Business Black Ops list.
What's the website they can go to?
We are still currently doing it just because it's a small group. Like, we just don't want anybody to come in.
It's super secret.
It is sort of super secret.
It is.
Yeah. There is going to be a website.
It's fun. It's like a club.
There is going to be a website soon just for the newsletter, because there, even if you're a jerk and you become a newsletter subscriber, you still got to jump through the Lisa Snyder.
You've got to be thick-skinned to be involved in this group.
Oh yeah, it's horrible the things they say.
We're very picky and choosy. There's only a few survive.
There's about 48 people. There's a bigger group that comes on the coaching calls and things, but the group that gets together and trains together, that's about 48 people. So, and they're horrible to one another, but in the most loving way.
Yeah, we love it. Oh, by the way, I just had another follow-up call with Mike Capuzzi.
Oh yeah, Big Mike.
Yesterday, and it is because of him that you and I met all those years ago.
That's hard. That is so funny. Yeah, because Capuzzi brought me, and Ben brought you.
Yep, that's how we met all those years ago, and this beautiful friendship began. All right, my brother. I'm going to have you again. Talk to Rob. Let's do that on the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's plan that. And
you can't let Eric Hunley and the Unstructured podcast. I'm the person who's appeared most there, even over Chris Voss. I think Chris Voss has 1 appearance. I have 3. I'm scheduled for 4. So you can't let Eric Hunley have.
No, I got to have you as my number 1 guest.
Well, this was fun, Tom, and thank you, because I really want to share, and I want people to survive this and then go on to thrive. So
yeah, that's what this is all about, really. Inspiring people, and not too optimistic, be realistic, but optimistic at the same time. All right, everybody, it's Tom Foster and one of my best buddies of all time, the Dave Freeze. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and healthy.